There's this old saying that says the only two sure things in life are death and taxes. But I think you could add one more to that list, and it's that knowing when to buy a Tesla, well, that's almost impossible. Tesla seems to constantly be changing prices, the configurations, different packages. So if you want to buy a Tesla, well, knowing exactly when to do it, it can be tough. But there's a lot of reasons why right now is the absolute best time to buy a Tesla. Whether you're looking on the new market or even on the used market, Tesla is offering a really good deal right now, except for a few key things that you should really stay away from. But I'll talk about that in a second. Now, as we go from 2024 into 2025, there's a few key things to keep in mind about what Tesla is offering. If you just look at their lineup, it is pretty solid. We're well into production of the Highland Model 3 and that Performance Model 3, which is an excellent car. We have the Model Y, which is kind of tried and true at this point. The Model S and X still offer some pretty cool features that you just can't get anywhere else. And the Cybertruck, well, what else can you really say about the Cybertruck? No matter which way you go in this lineup, I think you're going to be happy. One of the strong points of Tesla is that, they're very similar in their base functions. So if you want technology, you want full self-driving, you want obviously that electric performance, no matter which Tesla you decide to buy, from the cheapest to the most expensive, you're going to get some taste of that, Tesla experience. And that's why if someone is, thinking about getting a Tesla and they ask me my opinion, well, there's only a few things I have to say. First, which model do you actually want to buy? That's probably the most important. And then second, maybe equally as important, is when do you want to buy this car? With those two questions, well, we can figure out which car is the best option. Now, as we go into 2025, the second question is probably more important here because there are some changes that may be coming, specifically with pricing on the Tesla models. One of the best, I guess you'd say, advertising of a electric vehicle, not just Teslas, but just EVs in general, is the federal tax incentive. This ability to take, $7,500 off the purchase price of your car, well, that is kind of hard to ignore. And it's no doubt that many people have chosen to buy an EV and a Tesla because of that savings. And it makes some of the cars, the cars that are eligible for it, much more affordable than they would have been otherwise. But as we go into 2025, you may have heard, we're having a new president. And he has said that this incentive may be going away. In fact, Elon himself has said he's fine with that happening and that Tesla doesn't really need this. And, I'd agree. I think Tesla will be just fine without this incentive. All the Model 3 and Model Ys do qualify for that tax credit right now, but that wasn't always the case. So that could change at any time. I think Tesla as a company will be perfectly fine, but if you are looking to buy a car, this might be the perfect time to do it, because if that incentive goes away, well, that's $7,500 that you are going to have to pay again. Now, obviously, there's a lot of politics that goes into this. Like we just heard that in California, Newsom said that Tesla will not be included in their state rebate program. So there's a lot going on here. What it ends up actually, in turning out like, what happens at the end of the day is hard to say right now. But the fact that, it's a very real possibility that that $7,500 tax credit will be going away. If you're already in the market to buy a car, it might be best to pull the trigger sooner rather than later. Now, it's not all bad news. If we look at Tesla's track record, in the past, they have adjusted prices like they seem to love to do when the tax credit was not available. So they would probably end up doing that again. If you think about it, this incentive allows Tesla to charge more for a car because on the user's end, the customer's end, they're paying the same. And so if that goes away, well, the customer is probably going to want to pay the same that they're paying now. And so Tesla will just have to reduce the cost. At least that's the hope. And that's similar to what they've done in the past. It's not all bad news. I just don't know that you'd want to bet on that, again, if you're already in the market. Now, speaking of EVs, they have one thing in common with today's sponsor, which is Jackery, and that is batteries. This is the Jackery Solar Generator 1000 V2. This is a portable power station that gives you a huge battery to power really anything you need and a huge solar panel to, recharge that battery. With this, you have clean energy that you can take with you anywhere. Now, as a brand, I love Jackery. This is actually the first portable power station brand I've ever used. And ever since I got that first Jackery back in the day, I've been hooked on what they have to offer. Now, for me, I use these power stations in multiple different ways. Like for one, right now in the studio, I'm running this light that is lighting me up off the Jackery power station. And it's able to do that because this has 1500 watts of output, which is 50% more than the previous generation. That's a ton of output for a battery like this. That's just here in the studio. Obviously, you can use it in a bunch of other areas too. And one of the other places I always use these devices is when I'm out on an adventure, out going camping, especially in a time like right now where it's getting cold. If I ever go out, one of these power stations is a must for a few different reasons. I mean, if you wanted to power things like a coffee maker or a portable kettle or stove, you can plug it into the AC inverter here, which again delivers that 1500 watts of power. But the other thing we power all the time, which is less for me and is more for my wife, especially when we're out camping, is a heated blanket. We can plug it into this battery and she can be warm and toasty all night. Now, to recharge this, you can do it in a few different ways. Now, if you're plugging it into the wall, this has fast charge available. So you can go from 0 to 100% in just 1 hour. That is super fast. But if you're out somewhere else and can't plug into a wall, well, you can use this 200 watt solar panel. This is up to 10% more efficient than typical solar panels, which means it will recharge your battery faster. So this is a solar generator package, super small, and you can take it with you anywhere. Now, one of the big things to keep in mind here is that if you're going to be buying one of these, you want to make sure your investment is going to last. And well, Jackery has thought of that too, because this is using a lithium iron phosphate battery inside, and it's rated for 4,000 cycles. So you can recharge it, deplete it, recharge it, deplete it multiple times, 4,000 times before you see degradation. So the Jackery Solar Generator 1000 V2, I think, is the best package like this for outdoor use, studio use, really anything where you need power. This is one of the best options out there. And if you want to learn more about it or pick one up for yourself, I'll leave links down below. This is where you can find the latest discounts. But yeah, once you have one of these portable power stations, it's pretty hard to go back. But aside from that, there are also some really great incentives going on right now. So if you're in the market for a Model 3 or a Model Y, you get 0% APR financing on that. So if you're looking to finance this car, 0% is great, especially if you go look at what the rates are right now. And so with that, well, you could potentially be saving, hundreds of dollars a month on your payment. Now, aside from that, there's also other incentives that are currently going on, like $1,000 off if you have a referral code. There's a military discount of $1,000. The full self-driving transfer is still available, so that will save you thousands of dollars if you already have a Tesla with FSD. You can get 3 months of free self-driving and also 3 months of supercharging. So that could be a really nice bonus there. And then pair that with some generally low prices across the board. They're some of the lowest we've had in a long time. And well, it seems like this is the time to buy. A Cybertruck Foundation is over, so you're saving 20K right there off the bat, that makes the Cybertruck a lot more palatable. And then the Model 3 and Model Y are at some of the lowest prices we've seen, especially for the car you're getting. So they're both long-range rear-wheel drive at the base option. And if you're into leasing, you can get those cars for $299 a month, $300, and you can have a brand new Tesla with all the new tech, all the full self-driving capabilities. That is a pretty stinking good deal. But this is really where we get into the first question I asked, which is which car do you want? That's where things are, I think, a little bit more tricky, because on paper, the Model Y is an excellent deal. It's a tried and true car that we know is reliable. We know how the manufacturing is. They've been doing it for years at this point. It's also a great price, like I just said, but the big hiccup with this is that we know the Juniper Model Y is coming very soon in 2025. I've talked about the Model Y Juniper quite a bit here on the channel, but this seems like if you're waiting for a car, this might be the one reason to not buy a Tesla right now. If the Model Y is on your list, that is the car that you want. It is just very tough for me to say to buy the Model Y now instead of waiting for Juniper. With this new car, of course, we are expecting the Model 3 Highland treatment. So the interior, I would expect it to look more or less the same as what we got with the Model 3. So that means the interior lighting, that means the smaller bezels on the display and the higher refresh, the deletion of the stocks, whether you like that or not, the new seats that have perforation for cooling seats, which is great, the screen in the second row. I mean, from the interior interior, this is going to be a huge difference. If you've ever been in the new Model 3 and if you've ever driven the Model Y, you can tell how much of a difference this is going to make. And then on the exterior, we're also expecting a bit of a refresh there with this light bar in the back. I also would not be surprised if we see that light bar in the front, a la the Cybercab. I would not be surprised to see that design language come over to the Model Y. And it's just giving the Model Y that more refreshed, more up-to-date look that I think it does honestly need. And the fact that we're expecting to see this released in early 2025 at some point, it makes the prospect of buying the current Model Y one that I can't recommend very easily. Now, Tesla is trying to do everything they can to get you to buy this car. Like I said, they have the 0% APR. The lease deals are really great on these, and I wouldn't be surprised to see even more incentives continue to roll out for the Model Y, especially since I'm sure there are many people, because this is kind of myself and a few other people I know too, that were in the market for a Model Y, but when the Model 3 was released, the new update, they kind of switched over and decided maybe the Model 3 is the better decision. When you have those two cars next to each other, one just looks flashy, one looks kind of dated, it's easy to see why the Model Y sales may be dipping a bit. Now, kind of on the flip side of that though, is maybe you should buy the Model Y right now, not the Juniper, but the current model, because, well, like I said, that tax credit may be going away, so the car is probably going to be more expensive, and you may have to wait longer than you're expecting if you're in the US or North American market. Like with the Model 3 Highland that was released overseas first, so in China and in Europe, and I would expect to see that exact same thing with the Model Y. They're probably going to announce it over in those countries, and in here in the US, they're going to pretend that it didn't even exist. Nothing happened. They're going to continue selling the current Model Y until that launches a few months later. But the Model Y is not the only car that is tough to recommend right now. The other two is the Model S and the Model X. These got their update back in 2021, and I still personally think they are excellent cars. The Model S Plaid is still on my list, probably the top, right, tied with the Cybertruck. Those are the cars I want. But at the same time, I know that the Model S and X probably not the best buy, simply because they are lacking some features that we were hoping they were going to get. A few months ago, like 6 months ago, we had heard pretty solid rumors that the Model S and X were going to get a slight interior refresh. So this was supposed to include the interior lighting that we see in the Model 3. It was supposed to include new cameras, but, well, that never happened. There were some sources that were saying it is a for sure thing, it's happening, that they even stopped the factory line, but, well, obviously that never happened. But to say that that won't happen is a tough call, because it clearly needs some of those things, or at least it could use them. And I wouldn't be surprised to see Tesla implement those very soon. And for the price of the Model S and X, it's kind of tough to justify them over the Model 3 and Model Y, because those are just such a great deal. From a pure car perspective, I love the S and X. It's just hard to recommend them right now, especially because they also just got a slight price increase, nothing dramatic, but they're kind of going up, whereas the other cars are going down. But yeah, like with any decision like this, buying a new car is not something to be taken lightly. You can't just do it willy-nilly. So you have to really consider, is this the right time to do it? But I think if you know which car you're looking to get, then you can make a better decision of when to do it. Buying a car right now in 2024 from Tesla might not be the worst idea, because what happens in 2025 is still a pretty big mystery, and what Tesla is offering now, their lineup, is solid all around. Sure, there are some that could use an update, but if you just wanted to go out and buy a car right now, whichever one you choose is probably going to serve you well, and you could take advantage of some of these incentives and discounts.